Hello, namaskar, and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Pavani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 23rd October. It's Tuesday today, and on Tuesdays we have so many articles to go through. The first one is a shocking mystery. Can you take a guess, right? And put your guess in the comment section of this video, right? What do you think this a shocking mystery is all about? And apart from that, we are going to go through this one, and this one too. Now, dear friends, I would like to briefly introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses. They are designed by the best faculties of our country, so the quality that you get from our pen drive and tablet courses is of top quality. If you have any question or queries, feel free and give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. All information on StudyIQ.com. You can download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. Now, this shocking mystery is about Saudi Arabia. Finally, right? This Saudi has finally accepted this thing. It has admitted this thing officially, that Jamal Khashoggi is no more, right? That he died, right? But we can also say that he was killed in this consulate that is located, Saudi consulate in consulate house in Istanbul, that is in Turkey. Now, Saudi Arabia says it has arrested 18 people. It's just this thing, clearly we can, understand this thing, that it's something that they are trying to show us, right? And it's very sad that US President as well has said that this looks like a good first step. It's not a first good step. It's basically what Saudi Arabia is trying to do is it is trying to distance itself from this whole issue from Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, this crown prince who is having his own ways of dealing with the various different things. It was people of Saudi Arabia as well as people of world, they were expecting that Mohammed bin Salman will introduce some good reforms, some more 21st century sort of reforms in Saudi Arabia. But the way things have been done with this Jamal, it clearly looks like it's not going to change Saudi, and particularly this authoritarian regime of Saudi, it's not going to change itself in near future. The most horrific thing that we find here is this: a forensic expert who was reportedly carrying a bone saw. Can you believe this thing, that one person was carrying this bone saw? So what they have done is they have chopped this Jamal Khashoggi's body into small pieces, put it in a bag, and then they have took this bag with them from Istanbul to Saudi Arabia. So imagine how cold-blooded this regime is, and the world needs to know what actually happened to Khashoggi. Now, we have talked about it, but one thing that I would like to add here: remember when Paris attack took place, right? This terror attack in Paris in 2015, I think, or 2014. When this thing happened, right, at that point of time, the world, we've found that from various different parts of our world, people were protesting, people were expressing their solidarity with the people who were affected in this terror attack, because it was considered as an attack on freedom of speech. And that's what Jamal Khashoggi was doing, right? He was exercising his human right of speaking out what is right. Apart from that, he was by profession he was a journalist, so he was doing his job, and he's killed for doing his job properly. He was reporting all these negative things about this regime, and he is killed. So I think, right, this is a time as well that the world should show its solidarity with this sort of thing, because it's not just Jamal who has died, or it's not just the murder of Jamal. I think it's murder of free speech as well as murder of open and free media too. And our second item that we have is tough battle. This one is about government versus RBI, right? It's not a football match. It's about this Payment and Settlement Systems Act 2007. Now, Government of India wants to amend this Payment and Settlement Act, Systems Act 2007, and an interministerial committee is going through it. And interministerial committee is going to bring out its recommendation in near future. Now, RBI has publicly right, expressed its reservations. It's not agreeing. RBI is not happy with this amendments that may be introduced by this government, but recommendations that will be given by this interministerial committee to government. And this one is, I don't want to confuse you anymore. Let me give you a background why RBI, why we find this sort of thing right going on. Because what government of India wants to do is that RBI can look after all those banks, right, this normal banks. And then we will have a new regulatory board, that is Payments Regulatory Board, PRB. So this PRB will look after payment banks. This payment banks, that are banks, but they cannot give you loans. They can accept deposits up to 1 lakh rupees or something, and they can, they help in transferring money. You know what I mean? So if you want to pay out, then you can do that. You can receive money and things like that, but you won't get all those facilities that you get in a normal bank. So government of India wants two different authorities. One is RBI to look after normal banks, and then you have this PRB, that is Payments Regulatory Board, for looking after this payments bank. And this is the reason why this RBI is not happy about this independent payments regulator. As per RBI, this Payment Regulatory Board should function under the purview of RBI, and it makes a sense as well. It's about having two bosses, right, in one organization. When you have two bosses, what happens is that one boss will tell you to fetch some apples, the other one will tell you to get some bananas, and between these two, you'll be juggling. And at the end of the day, this whole division of work, your focus, your goals, everything. I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about as an organization. Your goals, your focus, your division of work, your coordination, everything will get affected because of, you can say, this, orders coming from two different bosses. So the reason something similar can take place here, because at the end of the day, banks as well as these payment banks, they operate in this financial and economical world, isn't it? So there are so many things that overlap with each other, right? Payment banks and normal banks. And so it's better that we have one unified regulator, and who can be better than RBI? If we have RBI, if RBI is doing the, if it is empowered to look after this payments bank, then we will have one experienced regulator. So this risk of giving this new field of, you can say, this payments bank to an unexperienced organization, it's going to be a big risk. But when RBI is looking after it, RBI has huge amount of experience as well, so it's going to save in that front. Then unified regulator can help in lowering compliance costs as well, so that will be a big thing. And the main thing that we have to understand is that the government and RBI should work with each other rather than being in this sort of two different poles. It is expected, and it is better if they work with each other as partners, because when they are not with each other, right, then what happens is it gives a very negative signal in the market, and then the sentiments of investors and other people, the stakeholders, they become a bit shaky, and then it impacts our economic cycle's motion. Now, ripe for prison. Before we talk about this one, let me give you a brief about this one. It's about populism confronts reality. So if you read this article, it's a very easy read article. There is nothing you can say that technical about this article, but it is good to understand this article. The thing is, what we find in this article is, Imran Khan, the new Prime Minister of Pakistan, when he was campaigning for his elections, at that point of time, he made promises. He said that he will not appoint, or he will not promote, or in fact he is against nepotism. Like, he will not appoint his friends and family members and all those near and dear ones. He will rather select best man or best lady for the job. That's what he said. Then he also said that this old habit of Pakistan, always carrying a beggar bowl, that means begging for some money, in front of USA or some organization. He said, we don't need to do this thing. So his government will not do all these things. So he made so many promises, big promises, right? But what we find is that he is not fulfilling. His government is not, walking on. It's walk the talk, or you can say it was all barking, and no biting. That's what we find, because now they are seeking money from IMF. They are seeking money from Saudi Arabia. As far as nepotism is concerned, we find so many. His friends are working as advisors to Prime Minister. There are so many relatives. There are some, bad names who used to work under Pervez Musharraf. They are also part of his overall team. So it was a big, you can say, he was able to sell these words, or this big ideas, and people bought these things from him, and then they realized that this particular product, that is a so-called populism, or a dream that he was that he sold them, it's not a dream that is going to be a reality. Now, ripe for prison reform. It's about overall, generally speaking, as from the name itself you can understand, it's about our prison system, which is a century old system, right? Too outdated, too inhuman, you can say, and violation of fundamental rights. We find so many bad things going on in jails. In fact, jails in our country are, I would say, right, I will give you this example here. I think that's a good example. They are unis, I would say R&D, or I would also say that these jails in our country are think tank for criminals, right? For all those talented criminals, they enter here somehow, and then they come across this gurus and masterminds, these think tanks, who are living there for a very long period of time. They are in jail because of various different things. Like it's a habit as well. We don't have that much time, but there is a theory, a person who has been in jail for a very long period of time, that person will come back to jail, even if that person has finished his 15-20 years of, because that's the only place, that's the only world he knows. So he will come back, in a very short period of time. This is a theory, and this is something that is a reality as well. But anyways, we are not debating that thing. So what we find is, now, basic question first of all, right? Why we have jails? We have jails because if someone is kept in a jail for a bit of time, then we expect that when that person finishes his or her punishment, when that person is reintroduced, right, in the society, that person is clean. It's like when we are ill, we go to hospital. When we come back, we expect that we are, fine, isn't it? So same thing happens with jail as well. But here you have jails are more like unis and R&D centers and labs, because a petty criminal will, if that person is talented, and if you have right guru, then that person can become a big criminal. You find, various different streams here, whether you want to work in this field of drugs or trafficking, or this peddling, and so many things, right? So that's a very sad thing, and the way our prisons are operating, it's also not up to the mark. And it's not just us. We find this thing, generally speaking, around the world. Now, Supreme Court has appointed a committee. It has constituted a committee. This will be headed by Justice Amitava Roy, and the main job of this committee is there is no specific job. Basically, they have to go through everything, right? So all those things that are required will be analyzed by this Justice Amitava Roy committee, and then it will be presented to Supreme Court, and then let's wait and watch. But earlier on as well, in 1980s, we had this Justice A.N. Mullah committee, and later on Justice Krishna Iyer committees. But these two committees were for this prison improvement or reformation of our prisons and jails, but still things are as it is now. Now, as I told you, the main objective of criminal punishment should be one of reform rather than wreaking vengeance. Now, as a society, whenever we come across this sort of heinous crimes, then the first reaction is, of course, we want that person to be hanged, particularly when cases are of, murders and when it is associated with rapes and some other sort of heinous crimes. So the natural reaction is, yes, the people will demand. We expect most severe punishment, and it is something that is very logical as well, right? If logical, it's emotional, but when we analyze this thing logically, we find that yes, in emotion, a person will demand this sort of punishments, isn't it? But as a judge, right, or as a criminal justice system, they have to keep a fine balance. They have to go through things as per rules and regulation. They have to find a logical solution for everything, and for that we need overall, cleaning up of this system, or re-engineering of the whole criminal justice system, right from police to this judges. We need a sort of re-engineering. We need to get rid of these adjournments. We need to get rid of this not so good quality shoddy investigations and things like that. And the Hammurabi Code, it is argued, Hammurabi Code is this ancient code that was existing in this Babylonia, or this Macedonia portion. This is Assyria, and remember this Macedonia and all this ancient civilization. They used to have some somewhere around 1750 BC, before Christ era, right? They used to have this Hammurabi Code. It was about giving harsh punishment to all those criminals and things like that. We don't need those sort of harsh punishment now, but we definitely need to reform our jails. Apart from Europe, in USA's population is somewhere around 32 million people, and out of that 2 million people are behind the bars. So in terms of crime, it's a very bad place. It may look very developed place, but in terms of crime, it's a very, very dangerous place. USA. UK 92,500 people. In India, in terms of our population, if you compare 4.2 lakh inmates, it's not that bad, right? It's not that big figure compared to USA, but we have just 1,401 facilities. All these places as well, right? They have bad facilities. Only in Europe you have some humane thing, but out of this 4.2 lakh inmates, 67% are under trial. So this is a matter of concern. Their human rights are violated, and this thing is going on around the world. Then you have this brutality that is executed by prison officials, very harsh, right? All this I'm sure I don't have to explain all these things to you. We are well aware about what sort of treatment you get in jail if you don't have power, if you don't have any sort of backup. If you are just a common, prisoner, then you have to do all this hard work, and so many things are there. So anyways, why don't we find, right, reforms in this area? There are so many people out there. The thing is, right, once you are in jail, you are not going to vote, are you? Means you cannot vote, first thing. The second thing is, right, if people in jail or the numbers of people going in jail are up or a little bit down, if they are getting human rights or not, it does not impact decision making of people. So in short, right, it's not a political topic that will fetch good votes. So there is no point for politicians, for lawmakers to pay any attention to this thing. Now this one is been said by a person. His name is R.K. Raghavan. He was CBI director, former CBI director. He has written this ripe for prison reforms. We are going to go through this the value of health scheme, and after that we are going to talk about this fanning the flames. And now this fanning the flames is connected with this article. So this value of health scheme, it's about 36 million families, or 14% of households, right, every year. They face this medical bills that is equal to entire annual living expenses of one member of the family. The focus continues to be on top down even today when we are talking about Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. If you go through this RSBY, that is Rashtriya, this Swasthya Bima Yojana, Rajiv Gandhi, it was named after Rajiv Gandhi. And this Yojana as well, this RSBY, is providing insurance cover of some 1,50,000 rupees, and you get RSBY cards for every individual in your family. You have to, of course, fulfill some conditions, What we find is that that scheme has failed for various different reasons. The first thing is that people were not knowing how to use that smart card. The second thing is hospitals started hating these patients who were showing or using these cards, because they were treated as all those people, this poor people were treated, or the stereotype that they are sucking away important resources of nation, and for free of course they are getting all these facilities. So even the staff started hating them, and lack of involvement and endorsement of local leaders to promote this card. People were not knowing how to use it, and so this RSBY failed. And now I'm not saying that this Ayushman Bharat will also fail, but there are so many things that we have to be careful about. I'm not going into the basic details of RSBY. I'm not RSBY, but this PMJAY, because I believe we have talked about this thing many a times, and I have a question for you guys as well today. At the end of this discussion, I have a question for you guys on this Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So it's a descriptive one, of course, not an MCQ. So, right. So basically, just like GST, right? When we introduced GST, and GST is a good thing, no doubt, but when we introduced GST, this was for the first time. So we faced so many hurdles, but the good thing about GST is that GST Council, you have both. It's a federal structure. You have states as well as you have central government. So together they have this GST Council basically has worked out very well. Every time there was a hurdle in front of GST, it was properly sorted out by GST Council. And something similar we need a medical council or something, so that all the hurdles that we are going to face, this already we have started facing some hurdles, but the bigger challenges that we are going to face in future, from now on we need to have a proper committee or a council that will be a federal cooperative in nature, where you will have say of both state as well as central government. You can have voting system and things like that, and we need this for our human capital development. And when we have this sort of health council, say for example, things will move fast, because we are going to face so many problems. Like, I'll give you a small example. Private hospitals, right? Every single case, if two different individuals, if they are going through heart surgeries, then both their cases will be different. So when we are talking about fixed chart, and these are the things that you have to follow, it's not going to be you cannot limit doctors. They have to do things that they have to do, but there are going to be many private hospitals. They are going to exploit this 5 lakh cover too. So even if something that will cost you 1 lakh rupee, right, they can go for various different things, and they can increase this price of your operation or something. So it's very easy, right? But we have to make sure how we can create this trust bridge, or a bridge of trust, so that this sort of exploitation of this hard-earned money of people is not you can say sucked away by few private hospitals. At the same time, we have to create this partnership, and we have to realize this private hospitals and staff, that these people, right, all those poor people, if when we are providing them insurance, it's not that they are sucking away our hard-earned exchequers money. They are, in fact, what we are doing is, it's part of development. We have to look after them. If we want to see healthy population, we have to provide them this insurance. And poverty and other things, when someone has to when a family has to sell its asset or house, once they become poor, then this cycle, it becomes very difficult to break this poverty. And with poverty, you have lack of education, you have lack of healthcare facilities, and then these problems become bigger and bigger. So to break this cycle, a vicious cycle, right, and if we want to create a virtuous cycle, then we have to provide insurance. So that's what the value of a health scheme is all about. Of course, bottom line, I would say, is that we may face problem, we are going to face problem. It all depends. Are we ready to sort out all those problems that we are going to face? Now, fanning the flames. They say that scapegoating is a well-worn political technique to divert attention from governance failures. And this article is about this book called The Sarkari Musalman. Lieutenant General Zamiruddin Shah. His book is about to be launched, and this book is talking about this Zamiruddin Shah. He was a commanding officer of a army troop, and this troop was deployed in Gujarat to quell the riots in the state. And for one whole day, the troops were kept waiting for transport at Ahmedabad airport. At that point of time, Narendra Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat, and basically in this book, General Shah has requested, or he's saying that why was it not provided? Why transportation facility was not provided to his troops, to him and his troops? And then this special investigation team was appointed by Supreme Court, and you find the name here, R.K. Raghavan, a retired CBI director, a person who has written this article on human rights, and he has written this article on, I'm not saying he is guilty, but here you can see on the same newspaper, right, this article is saying that he is known as an absentee investigator, as he spent only a few days a month in Gujarat during the probe, and as half his team consisted of Gujarat police officers. So what do you expect, right? No one is going to go against Chief Minister or ruling party, because we know that police are at the end of the day working under they work under the aegis of Home Ministry. I'm not saying that Prime Minister or then Chief Minister Narendra Modi is involved. Who am I to say, right? But the thing is, you see here that this article is written by a retired judge of Supreme Court, and he is saying that this special investigation team, or this retired CBI director R.K. Raghavan, was known as absentee investigators. So from this thing we can understand that the things that we find many times in our society, that it's very easy to throw blame on someone, and then you divert your whole. If you have done something wrong, you will find a scapegoat and you will throw everything on this scapegoat. So people will be busy with this scapegoat, and after a couple of days you will find some other issue, so your issue will be out of memory of people. So that's what we saw in this Indira Gandhi's assassination case as well. The massacre of Sikhs in Delhi and other places started, but the army was not called to quell them until the night of November 3. So it's not about BJP, it's not about just Congress, it's about our whole system. Now let's move on to news item. Modi steps in as CBI begins to probe its own leadership. Rakesh Asthana case, yesterday we talked about it, so again let's wait and watch. CBI director met PM as well as NSA, that is National Security Advisor. Supreme Court to list review petitions today. It's about Sabarimala verdict, nun rape case. Witness is killed or found dead. Why are media regulators soft with scribes, asks Supreme Court. It's about the regulators, media regulators. They are generally this retired Supreme Court judges, and why they are silent on some of these journalists and media organizations who are doing or stepping out of their Lakshman Rekha. Nila Kurinji, remember this flower? Yeah, it blossoms once in 12 years. So tourists have failed to spot it because there was no Nila Kurinji this year. Untreated sludge is chucked away in this rivers of Uttar Pradesh, and nearly 88% of items are thrown in on an average in this river. So it's a very, very bad practice, right? Lower judiciary vacancies are unacceptable, 5,000 plus, 5,133 to be precise. And Bolton, who is National Security Advisor of USA, he is in Russia to talk about this Civil War era nuclear weapons treaty. An African island that you find in Victoria Lake, right? It's a matter of, or a bone of contention between Kenya and Uganda, because both of them are claiming that Migingo Island belongs to them. Then you have this world's longest cross-sea bridge, right, connecting this Hong Kong, Zhuhai and Macau. And then you have, because of less rainfall, crop production may fall down. Automation is not going to take away all jobs, but there are going to be change in the nature of our jobs, and income tax, not income tax, but direct tax collection has gone up. It used to be somewhere around 3.79 crore, but now it is 6.85 crore people are filing their direct tax, and these are your loggerheads, reminiscent, axiom, penury, and euphoria. Yesterday's research topic was this intermediate range missile, which range of this missile is 500 to 5,500 kilometer, nuclear ones particularly. And Mikhail Gorbachev and this President Reagan, they were signing this letter of in 1987. It was about disarmament, it was about Cold War, it was about ending this Cold War. But now what we find in news is that Mr. Trump has said that he may step out of this INF. Back in 2014, Barack Obama was not happy with this INF. He said he blamed Russia, Russia blamed USA. So this sort of ping pong is going on between both Russia and USA for a very long period of time now. But we have to be very careful here. We don't want to see these two strong nuclear powers, colliding head-on with each other. Today's research quiz is this one. You can see on your screen. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 gentlemen, 1 lady, and then again followed by 1 gentleman. So this person here, I'll give you a small hint, because I found that yesterday's question was a bit difficult for you guys. So this gentleman here, he is governor of RBI, right? Governor of RBI, and then you have other 5 members. So what these members are, who are they, right? Together they form a team. What is the name of this team, and what is the main job of this team? This is your research topic, and you have this descriptive question. What are salient features of Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana? That's everything in today's discussion. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure you share this lecture with other students. God bless you all. Jai Hind.